Hey guys, in today's video we're going to talk about external rotation and is it a fundamental to a great golf swing? I want to talk to you today about live view golf. Now you guys hear me say all the time that you need feedback when you're practicing. You need to know if you're actually doing what you're trying to do, and the best way to give yourself feedback ultimately is video. And not only is video the best way to give yourself feedback, but being able to see yourself simultaneously as you're doing a movement is the best form of video feedback. It's the best way I've seen to make changes in your swing and be able to correlate the differences between your feels and your reels. Live view is super easy to use and set up. Simply set it up behind or in front of you. You connect it with your iPad or phone, pop that on the ground. You can actually do your practice, see yourself as you're doing it, the best way to expedite your process. I encourage you guys to check out Live View Golf. We'll put a link in the description down below with a coupon code. All right guys, so let's talk about external rotation and whether or not it's a fundamental to great golf swings and if you need to even worry about it in your own golf swing. Now, as we get into this here, I'm going to show you guys a couple of videos of some great ball strikers and sort of explain this because it's a little bit more of a micro movement. But when we talk about external rotation, really we're talking about the trail arm and shoulder. So as a right-handed golfer, it's the right arm. And so during my backswing and downswing, my shoulder can be in a couple different positions. From the down the line angle, my shoulder can be internally rotated, which from this position here would be my palm going more down towards the ground, elbow out, my forearm sort of horizontal. This would be internal rotation. And then external rotation would be getting my palm back up facing away from me, getting my elbow more down towards the ground, and having my forearm be more straight up and down. So internal, forearm horizontal, palm down. External, elbow down, forearm straight up and down, palm this way. The question is, well, do I need this in my swing or not? Now, we did a video a couple months back called Internal versus External Rotation, and really the purpose of that video was to say, it doesn't make much of a difference during the backswing. I can show you great ball strikers who are internally rotated, think elbow down towards the ground, and they hit it great. I see some people in kind of the middle, which is the forearm, a little bit angled there. And then I see some that are really internally rotated, which is the forearm a little bit more kind of horizontal. So you got great ball strikers here, here, and here. The point is most all of them, of course there's anomalies, go from wherever they are to an externally rotated position in the initial phase of the downswing. So you kind of have two baseline options here to play great golf. Option one, you can make a backswing and downswing where you make a backswing, your right arm goes into external rotation, elbow more down towards the ground, forearm vertical, and then you keep it externally. That's an option. Or if you're going to go more internal on the way back, which would happen kind of from the takeaway to the top and have the forearm a little bit more angled, that's fine. There's some benefits to that, but you have to get it back in front as you start down, regardless of how. Okay, that's kind of the options you have. Now, let's take a look at some of these players and kind of show you what I'm talking about, and then I'll talk you guys through how to put an external rotation in your backswing if you want, or if you want to be more flying right out, but how to get it back in. I'll give you a couple drills to do. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these players and how their trail arm and the external rotation works. Swing number one here, we just have Adam Scott. Now I'm going to pull these guys up to the top of the backswing here, and we'll look at where things go from there. There's a couple ways to see external rotation from here. Some of the things we're going to look at here is the position of the forearm in space. That's one indicator. We'll also look at the position of the upper arm, and then in general, the distance between the elbows. Now, if a player is to externally rotate the arm, you'll notice the angle of this upper arm first. Let's look at that. We'll change from where it is in space at the top, and then let's go ahead and see where his upper arm is at this left arm parallel position. Now his left arm from there went from basically horizontal to the ground to being straight, almost straight up and down with the elbow down towards the ground. So that would be the move where you would see the external rotation. There again, you see the upper arm, the humerus of the right arm from the shoulder to the elbow is pretty much horizontal to the ground. And then we can see as we get down in front of him, that arm now is basically vertical. The key point here is the seam line of his shirt, his elbow very clearly being in front of that. So that's the look that we'll see that external rotation position in transition. Let's pull up another example. This one here is Brooks Koepka. Now again, there's going to be in different positions at the top. You can go external on the way back, you can stay, you can go internal rather, you can stay external is fine, but either way, this trail arm is going to stay in front of this seam line from the top. And these angles of the arm, here's the forearm rather, you can see the upper arm in space working more towards straight down. So if we look at the top again, at the same left arm parallel position, we'll notice the upper arm for him is a little bit more in than it was for Adam Scott. Here's the upper arm in space. And now in transition, that upper arm is not getting more horizontal. It's not getting more behind him. That upper arm, that humerus, is getting more in front of him. There again, feeling the same thing. Not quite straight up and down 90, but definitely more towards the ground with the elbow position. Now you can see some guys on here that do this more than others, right? You might see a Dustin Johnson type of swing where it's really, even Brooks Koepka, it's really easy to see this arm, right? Same sort of thing. Here's the upper arm in space, and then that arm is going to get back down in front of him. It gets a little blurry there, but you can really see how that arm gets back in front. That's that trail shoulder. And one more example, here's one we use all the time with Hideki. Up to the top, trail shoulder stays a little more externally rotated at the top, but still we'll see a change in positioning of that upper arm, the humerus bone from the top into transition will point more down towards the ground. All of them getting back in front of the seam line is the key. Whether you externally rotate it going back or you internally rotate it, you have to get back into external rotation in transition. That's a fundamental all of these good ball strikers do. All right, guys, so now you saw a little bit of what we're talking about here. Now, let's go through a couple different scenarios and drills. Let's say you determine that, hey, during my backswing, I get this arm internal flying right elbow, and I want to change it, right? And the scenario where I'd say it makes sense to change that is if you're a golfer who goes back and your elbow gets out, and then it stays out in transition. What'll happen is you'll see this look. If my arm is in internal rotation, so my forearm's horizontal to the ground. As I make a transition, if it stays horizontal to the ground, this is what you're gonna get. Now what this is not very good. This is the shaft very vertical, oftentimes club face issues, but the shaft very vertical. Something you're gonna have to make up for later to fix usually early extension pivot issues. So if you're like, hey, listen, I can't fix that in transition, I just wanna keep it in the whole time, I'd say that's fine. There's a couple different options. First is just feel-wise. If I wanted to have my trail arm more externally rotated on my backswing, one simple feel could be as simple as the elbow being pointed more down towards the ground the whole backswing. So if I take my setup position, depending upon your grip, your elbow is going to be in different spots. If you have a stronger grip, your elbow will be more towards you, weaker, more towards the camera. But as I make my backswing, I want to feel my elbow pointed more down towards the ground. That would be feel option number one. You can see that gets me more externally rotated compared to my elbow being more behind me. So feel one is you can start with elbow more down towards the ground as you start to hit shots. Again, you can hit some shots with this just to start. Elbow more down towards the ground. And I happen to like that for me who goes out a little bit. And of course, you know, you're putting the video on, you're giving yourself feedback, you're not just guessing, but it could be as simple as that. Elbow more down towards the ground. As you do that, you're gonna feel probably more of a stretch in your shoulder compared to if you're normally out this way. That'll feel kind of looser. This will feel like you're stretching your shoulder a little bit. So we'll do one more like that. Elbow down towards the ground would be option number one to make it more externally rotated. And that can be a good starting point for a lot of you who go too far out that way. Now, the other thing you're gonna feel when you do that, so if we do that one more time, is the distance your arm is away from your body. So as I go back, if you're someone who's internally rotated this way, you can see there's a lot of distance between my arm and my body. My elbow is probably above my left elbow. If I go to external rotation, you'll see my elbow underneath my left arm and my arm now is closer to my body. Internal farther away, external closer. So part two could be elbow down towards the ground, upper arm stays closer, not tucked to my body, but closer to my body. So that'd be feel two. Right elbow down, upper arm closer to my body. Let's go ahead and try that one. And that also feels good for me. Now, let's say you go through those feels and you're like, all right, that's cool, but that doesn't completely change it for me. One option you can do in terms of drill wise is to put a glove in. I could take a glove, put it underneath my right arm, and what's the purpose of this? Well, now again, when you put this on, this needs to go in your armpit, not like mid ribs here. I don't want your whole arm in your body. It's underneath your armpit. Now the purpose of that is if I make a backswing and I keep that in, my arm wants to be externally rotated, elbow down. What happens if I let my elbow go up? The glove comes out. So a really simple drill would be glove underneath your trail armpit. I'm still feeling the same things. Elbow more down towards the ground on my way back would make that more external. Let's go ahead and try that. And you're trying to keep that in on the way back. And heck, while you're at it, you can keep it on the way through too for good rotation. That would be another option. One more thing you could do would be a Tour Striker ball. So Martin, Chuck, and Tour Striker, if you guys haven't checked them out, I don't know what you're doing, but they have a ton of good training aids. One of them is the Tour Striker ball. If I put the ball just underneath my elbows, take my setup position, this can train the same thing. When I make my backswing, if I want more external rotation, I want my elbows to be closer together. If I let this go, I don't have the little thing on there, the ball would fly out. So I can start to hit some shots, put this in, it'll feel a little bit more restricted compared to normal if you have the elbow fly out. And you're feeling the same things, elbow down towards the ground on the way back, and just start chipping a couple with that in there just to get a sense and a feel. That's also another feel. And again, these are all if you determine you want to do it on the way back. The deal is this, regardless of what you do on the way back, we'll see if that ball stays there, regardless of what you do on the way back, your elbow has to get back in front of your seam line. And that's the checkpoint we use there. This little line down your shirt here, if I were to put this here so you could see it in space, I don't want my elbow getting behind that line. See how that's behind where that line is? This is in front of it. Behind, elbow behind me, forearm horizontal, not good if you can't get back in front. If you want to keep it in front, elbow more down, forearm more up towards the sky, this way we keep it in front. Regardless, you've got to get it back in front when you come down. This little feel here of getting it back in front when you come down. So that's what you do if you want to fix it on the way back. Let's talk about if you want to leave it up and fix it on the way down. Okay, so let's say you want to leave your arm fly out a little bit. Maybe that gets you a little bit of a longer backswing, more speed potentially, and you want to have it come back in on the way down. Well, from a feel perspective, the same things would apply on the way back, meaning if my elbow down towards the ground and my forearm being vertical was a good feel to create external rotation on the way back, that's still a good feel to create on the way through. So when I come down, if I leave it go out, I want to feel my elbow more down towards the ground and my forearm more vertical. Here would be bad, elbow stays behind me, forearm horizontal steep, trouble. Here would be good, elbow more down towards the ground, forearm more vertical. And I'm not trying to pull my elbow into my body, I'm trying to get the elbow down towards the ground. And I can do that, just a little feel in transition, up top, elbow down, forearm vertical, and I can hit some little shots with that. And that feels really good too. And so again, it's a difference between, I'm not trying to jam my arm into my body, I'm just trying to get my elbow down towards the ground, just that external rotation position. That could be feel number one. You can also use a Tour Striker ball for the downswing and squeeze your elbows together. If I put this ball in and I went to the top and I squeeze the ball together, you see that arm gets back in front of me again. So I can do that same sort of drill, but just feeling the elbow down towards the ground, the upper arm more vertical, not this way. Let's do that one more time. So elbow more down towards the ground, upper arm more vertical, gets my trail arm externally rotated. From this face-on position, you want to see the elbow, my right elbow, underneath my left arm. That's externally rotated. This is internally rotated. See from down the line as I do that, shaft vertical, right elbow above left, internal rotation, shaft very shallow there, right elbow under. So let's do that one more time. Elbow down towards the ground, forearm is vertical. Good. And so those are your options, guys. The deal is, other than anomalies, the elbow gets back in front of the seam line on the way down, or else you got to do something to compensate. Not that you can't, it's just going to be more difficult. You either got to keep it in front going back and keep it in front going down, which you may argue is easier, but either way, you got to get it back in front. Feel where the elbow is relative to the ground. Feel where your forearm is and where your right palm is relative towards the ground. If you guys have any questions, as always, leave a comment down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. If you liked the video, do us a favor, click the like button down below. Click the notification bell. Also, please subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.